Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. To everyone who knew them, the Watts family looked perfect. Chris and Shanann lived in a quiet Colorado suburb with their two young daughters, Bella and Celeste. Their house stood neat and bright, the kind of place people drive past and smile at. Shanann shared their life online, filling her posts with love, laughter, and hope. She believed in family and second chances and the power of positivity. And she believed in her husband. But behind the camera lens, cracks had started to show. Chris had grown distant, colder, his smiles thinner. Shanann wrote to friends that she felt something slipping away. She just couldn't name it yet. He still said all the right words, but his eyes gave him away. There was someone else. Someone who made him feel alive again, he said later. Someone who made him forget the promises he'd made. On August 12, 2018, Shanann returned home from a work trip after midnight. She texted a friend that she was exhausted but relieved to be home. The next morning, she was supposed to go to a doctor's appointment. She never showed up, neither did the girls. At first, Chris played the part of the worried husband perfectly. He opened the door to police, calm but rehearsed, talking about how they might have gone to a friend's house. Body camera footage showed him folding his arms, swaying slightly, glancing toward the floor as officers searched. Nothing in his face gave away the storm beneath. In the living room, Shanann's purse sat on the couch. Her phone was charging, her shoes were by the door. The children's blankets were gone. There were no signs of a struggle, just silence. The kind that feels wrong, heavy, and waiting. Neighbors noticed how quiet the house was that day. Chris mowed the lawn. He smiled at cameras. He told reporters he just wanted his family home. The world believed him for a moment. But that night, as search teams spread across the neighborhood, one neighbor pulled police aside and whispered, "He's not acting right. That's not the Chris I know." And for the first time, detectives began to look past the perfect husband and into the darkness quietly hiding in plain sight. The next morning, the house on Saratoga Trail looked the same. Neat lawn, curtains drawn, silence in every window. But inside, the illusion had already cracked. Detectives returned for a second look, and this time they noticed everything. Chris's stories kept changing. He spoke softly, too softly, as if rehearsing lines he'd already memorized. His voice trembled only when the cameras were on. When asked about the last time he saw his wife, he said she'd gone to a friend's house. But there was no friend. When asked if they'd argued, he said no, but his heartbeat on the polygraph said otherwise. The questions cut through his calm one by one until finally he broke. The truth came out not in anger, but in exhaustion. He said it happened fast. He said he panicked. He said things no one wanted to believe. And then he told them where to look. That evening, officers and search crews drove miles out toward the oil fields, an open, lonely landscape where wind carries everything away. They found what he'd left behind. A family that once smiled for photos, now silent beneath the same sky they'd once lived under. No one could understand how love could turn into something so cold. How a father could look at his children and see anything but home. When news broke, neighbors wept. Friends who had spoken to Shanann only days before fell silent. The videos she'd posted, the ones filled with laughter, birthday candles, and I love yous, became unbearable to watch. Every word she'd spoken now carried an echo. Chris Watts was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He sits there still, quiet as the house he left behind. No screams, no noise, just the weight of his choices pressing against the walls of a cell. The Watts home stood empty for years after. No one wanted it. The grass grew tall. The windows reflected only the sky. But sometimes, people driving through the neighborhood said they saw lights flicker inside, or heard the faint sound of laughter from the upstairs hall, the kind you only remember from home videos. Maybe it's imagination, maybe it's something else. Because even when the truth is known, some stories never stop echoing. And in that quiet Colorado suburb, the perfect house on the corner still whispers what it once held. A family, a lie, and the darkness that waited behind a smile. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow.